Hey, Mr. Myers is here, and today we're looking at factoring polynomials completely. And so what we're going to try to do is we're going to look at, we're going to try to make sure we look for the factors, and if we have these terms of these polynomials, either they're going to be binomials or trinomials, and we're going to take those and factor them. So we're going to kind of go backwards distributive property, okay? So let's take a look at some of these problems here. And you want to make sure that you go through these three things here. Is there a GCF? If yes, factor it first. Then you're going to see the trinomials, and you're going to take those trinomials and put them into binomials if you can. If not, then you just leave them alone. And then you're going to check back to see if you got the right answer using the distributive property. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples. Alright, so here's my first example, and what I'm going to do with this guy here is I am going to first find the GFC, so the greatest common factor, and you can see here that the greatest common factor is going to be 3b. It's going to be 3b, right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to take and factor out 3b, and we're going to get b squared plus 6b plus 8. Okay, and now that I got it into a trinomial, I can take this trinomial and I can factor that trinomial. Alright, so we factor that trinomial into b plus 4 times b plus 2. Now, some of you might be wondering, well, Mr. Myers, how do I factor a trinomial? I totally forgot how to do that in Algebra 1. So let me just redo that here for you really quickly. Now what I like to do is I like to use the X method, and it's like X method, and you see it later on. I'm going to use the X box method. You don't have to use X box method, but something like it helps. So what you need to do is you need to take that first coefficient of b squared, and you're going to multiply that by the last coefficient, which in this case is 8. You're going to multiply those together. So let me write it down here. All right. By the way, this is the answer. Okay. Right, this right here is the answer, so we just okay. But let's show you how to factor this guy right here. Okay, so we're gonna take that 1 and the 8, all right, and that we're gonna put in an x. Okay, why I use the x? I don't know. That's just what I've used in a long time. So 1 times 8 is 8. Okay, and then I'm gonna take and I'm going to take the middle one. Here is 6, and I'm gonna put that 6 right there in the bottom. And when I put that 6 in the bottom, what my goal is to do is to fill those other two spaces with two numbers that add to give you the bottom one, but multiply to give you the top one. So trying to find two numbers that multiply to give you 8, add to give you 6, two numbers that do that. 4 times 2 is 8, 4 plus 2 is 6. So there we go. Okay, so this means this is 4, and this is 2, and those guys actually end up being the numbers that go in your binomials. That's pretty much it, okay? That's only if you have a coefficient right there of 1 for the b squared. But if that's a coefficient of something else, then we got to use x box, okay? And so I'll show you the x box method in just a second. Let's take a look at another one. Alright, so we got 4x squared minus 23x plus 15. Notice here that there is no greatest common factor, right? Nothing goes into 4, 23, and 15 altogether. So we're going to go straight to x box, okay? Let me show you how to do x box. So first I'm going to make my x. And I'm going to take these two guys right here, 4 and 15, and I'm going to multiply those, okay? 4 times 15, I didn't circle the whole thing there. 4 times 15 is going to give me 60. Alright, I'm going to put that there. The middle term right there, the middle number goes here. So now I got to think to myself, what do I need to do to multiply? What two numbers do I need to multiply to give me 60, but add to give me negative 23? Well, I know the bottom's going to be negative. So if the bottom's going to be negative, really what I'm adding is I'm going to add a positive and a negative, right? Because that's the only way I'm going to get a negative on the bottom. I can't add two positives. I guess I could add two negatives. Actually, that's probably better, because two negatives, if I multiply two negatives, I get a positive. Otherwise, if they're both negative, if one's negative and one's positive, well, that multiply a negative times a positive is going to be a negative. So I can't be that. So in this case, it's got to be two negative numbers. So my thought here is that whatever these two guys are going to be two negative numbers that multiply to give you 60 and add to give you 23. Well, I'm pretty sure that 20 times 3 is 60. And that seems to fit exactly what we want. 20 and 3, right? So 20 and 3 go in my x. Now, check this out. I'm going to go x box. X box. I'm going to make a box here. And some of you don't have to make the box, but this is what I've used in the past. So I'll show you another method later on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a box right here. Boom. Okay. Box. Okay, and what I'm going to do with that box is I'm going to put 4x squared in the top corner. Okay, right there in the top corner. And then in the bottom corner here, I'm going to put 15. So I'm going to put that 15 right here. Okay, and then in each of the sides, actually it doesn't matter what parts of those sides I put it in. It could be either or. But I'm going to take those two numbers that I found on my x, and I'm going to put those there. All right, so those two, negative 20x and negative 3x. I want to put an x to them. Basically what I'm doing, guys, I'm taking that negative 23x right there and I'm splitting it into two parts, all right? Okay, so if you have me before and you did, we did FOIL and I showed you that box method where we put those two on the top, two on the bottom, we multiply inside, kind of like a Punnett square in biology. We're going to just do backwards. So here's what we're going to do, okay? I'm excited. This is exciting. Okay, this right here, this is the, I think you'll like it, okay? So what I'm going to do here is up. Okay, negative 20x and 4x squared. I'm going to take the greatest common factor of those two. Alright, and I know how to do that. That's going to be 4x, right? 4x goes into both of those guys. So I'm going to take the greatest common factor here, and then I'm going to do it here as well. And I know that this has got to be an x, so that 4x times x is 4x squared. Now it's just a matter of filling in the outside of this square. So what's got to be here? It's got to be a negative 5. So that way I get negative 5 times 4x is negative 20x. What's got to be right here? A positive 3, because 3 times negative 5 is positive 15. Oh, actually a negative 3. Whoops. Negative 3. Negative, not positive. Alright, so then what's my answer? My answer? Where is my grammar today, right? 4x minus 3 times x minus 5. That's it. That's my x box method, folks. If you don't like the x box method, there's another method. You can do the old school, going old school method. And the going old school method is, you know, listing all the factors of 4, listing all the factors of 15. Try to match up to see which ones work and put it in and figure out what that is that way. I don't really like that method. It's a fine method, but it takes a little while longer. Okay, so X box method. There's also X grouping method, and I'll show that to you in just a second too. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. All right, factor each polynomial completely. So take a look at this, guys. We do have a greatest common factor in here, right? The greatest common factor, it looks like a 6. It's not a 6, right? It's not a 6. It's actually a 2, right? Okay, so we're going to factor out a 2. We're going to get 3y squared minus 8y minus 3. Alright? So, what do we suppose we're going to do with this 3y squared minus 8y minus 3? Let's try xbox, see if xbox works. Okay, so xbox tells me 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Negative 8. Now, let's see. Are there two things that multiply to negative 9 but add to negative 8? Yeah, actually, negative 9 and positive 1 work. So let's do that. Negative 9 and positive 1. So now that I got my x here, I go to my x box. Alright, so x box. How about, you know, I showed you x box, let me show you x grouping, okay? Let me show you x grouping. So what we do in x grouping is we take 3y squared, and then we do negative 9y plus 1y, and then minus 3, and we get the 3 from here, okay? So the 3 goes here, this first term goes right here, and then these other two guys go in here. Alright, so that's what we're going to do with these. And then we're going to group these. If you don't remember grouping, what we're going to do is we're going to take these first two, and then these other two, and we're going to find the greatest common factor in each of those. So the greatest common factor in 3y squared and negative 9y is just 3y. So I'm going to factor out a 3y from just this first two part right there. Just those two things. And we're going to get y minus 3. And look at this. This is also y minus 3. So it's 1 times y minus 3. So now you see that I got a y minus 3 and another y minus 3 here. So if I have two y minus 3's, I'm going to group those, and I'm going to get 3y plus 1 times y minus 3. Oh, I don't want to forget my 2. Bring that guy back down here. Bring the guy all the way down 2. And then circle that guy. We got our answer, okay? So circle this guy. This is our answer. Boom. Next problem. Not too many problems here, guys. Let's go over maybe 2 more, and then we're done for this one, okay? So, factor each polynomial completely. Notice here I've got an x and a y, an x squared and a y squared. Don't worry about those, okay? There's no common factor here. We're going to use x box, okay? That's what I'm using. I'm using x box, okay? So, x box, 2 times negative 20 is negative 40. My 3 goes in the middle. See, I'll deal with the x and y later, okay? So, two numbers that multiply to negative 40 but add to 3. Well, probably not going to be 15, right? Oh, maybe 5 and 8. Ooh, that sounds good. 5 and 8. Okay. So, let's go negative 5 and positive 8. That seems to work. Negative 5 times positive 8 is negative 40, and then if I add those two together, I get 3. Perfect. All right, now I'm going to go to box because x box, okay? 2x squared, negative 20y squared. Now I'm going to put the negative 5 in the negative 5xy and 8xy. Well, look, the greatest common factor going down there on those first two is just x, right? Because we really can't put anything in there. I mean, the 2 and the 5, right? They don't have a greatest common factor. How about the 2x squared and the 8xy? Well, that seems to be 4x. 2x. What was I saying? 4x. 2x. Duh. 2x times x is 2x squared. Okay, so, and then this one right here has got to be a 4y, because 4y times 2x is 4xy, is 8xy. Okay, this one's got to be a negative 5y, because negative 5y times 4y is negative 20y squared. Man, folks, here we go. 2x minus 5y times x plus 4y. Done. All right? There's our factoring. Okay? There's our factoring. X box. If you like x grouping better, do x grouping. Either way, man, you're going to come out with the same answer. All right? All right. I'm going to skip a few here. These are practice problems. I don't have time to quite go over the practice problems, so if you want to pause it and then go over it, and then you can come back to me and I'll have the answers for those in class. But I want to do one more example here of grouping. So grouping again, we're going to take the first two and we're going to group those first two and then the second two and group those first two, okay? So we're going to take these two, group them, and then these two and group them. And we got to include the minus in the grouping, by the way, okay? Include the minus. So factor out an x. I factor out an x squared in this case. So we're going to have x plus 5. And then we're going to factor out a negative 2. So factor out a negative 2 and we're going to have x plus 5. Oh, look, it should come out where these two guys right there, those two binomials, those two should be the same, all right? That's how grouping works. You know, those two end up being the same. So we got x squared minus 2 times x plus 5. Boom! Did I scare you? Hope not. Okay, so that's it, guys. That's all there is to grouping. So that's when we use the x grouping method. You're doing the same thing in grouping. Okay. So one last thing I want to go over with you. This is a grouping method here. So if you want, go ahead and do the problem, the practice problem, and come see me after class or in class and ask me how to do those problems. I didn't want to make this video too short. If you're not in my class and you're watching this video, hopefully those that I did was enough for you to, you know, really get it, okay? So, good to see you guys. I'm out. Peace.